Greetings to you. Greetings and welcome. Welcome to Uncensored Guyana. I'm Dr. Prasad. Well, things are not getting better. Unfortunately for Guyanese, things are not getting better. Let me explain. Unfortunately for Guyanese, I'm not talking about the people who have done what they could do to get a criminal in the parliament. They're not Guyanese. I'm not talking about them. You see, their lives forever is messed up. So there is nothing I can say that can change their position. They're doomed forever. For the rest of Guyana, the people who understand what it means to be patriotic, the people who embrace self-awareness and love their country and understand their constitutional responsibility to support an elected president, to stand with law and order, to be proud of our democracy. Those people, unfortunately, things will not get better. We are a victim. We have become a victim, uninvited status of victimhood because of the unwanted pests who find themselves in Guyana, holders of a Guyanese passport and a Guyanese national identification, those who are registered on the ballots to vote and happen to vote for the devil, the tares amongst the wheat. The tares voted for the devil, the nephew of Satan, the bloodhound, the vampire, the lie moronic. He's a moron who lies. Lie moronic. Azruddin Mohammed, the want-to-be black man, the adopted prince of the ghetto, the scummer of scummerish, the vagabond of vagabonds, the abuser, the tormentor of the good souls of Guyana, the trickster, Azruddin Mohammed. Him and his bunch of hooligans have successfully destroyed Guyana. Future tense. Unfortunately for the rest of us, We fought a good fight. We held on to the course. We stand for what was right and what was just. God is going to tell us. Elohim is going to tell us. Krishna is going to tell us. Allah is going to tell us. Welcome, good and faithful servants of Guyana. Enter into the prosperity I have allocated for you through my son, Irfaan Ali, who is your president. That's what the rest of us shall hear. Because despite the misfortune that will befall Guyana in the near future, we have a creator that is just and fair. And that creator knows that our party, our national, sovereign, organic party, from day one, stood against tyranny, stood against criminal activities, stood against illegal trafficking, stood against gold smuggling, stood against drug smuggling, stood against murder, stood against conspiracy to destabilize the government. God knows our party stood against all of that. But despite that, God also knows that our president, the son of the soil, the greatest president that Guyana has ever experienced to date, that man stands for law and order and the Constitution. I wish he was a dictator. He as an Irfaan Ali. I wish Irfaan Ali had any amount of my character. I will dictate the Mohammeds out the country. But God knows that President Irfaan Ali is the purest of hearts of any president anywhere. And he wanted to trust the system. So therefore, he had no interference. Even though the election of this lunatic is going to put Ali's country at risk, President Ali wanted the world to see that, hey, he's a fair president. He's not a dictator. He would not interfere with the judicial process. Hence, as a consequence, Monday, 2 days from now, we could possibly be ushering in the uncertain destruction of Guyana's democracy by the election of the worst opposition leader, the most incompetent, criminal, stupid, pea-brain, impotent, ugly opposition leader Guyana has ever seen. Ashuddin Mohammed makes Norton look like a handsome boy. Because the definition of ugliness is not about your facial characteristics. It's about your character. When someone is classified as ugly, it means that based on what you know of them, you don't want to look in their direction, fearing that you will attract the evil that they represent. And with Ashuddin Mohammed, the worst opposition leader, and his appointment is going to rain down what the niggers really want to experience. Poverty like never before. If you think Burnham was bad, if you think Burnham was bad, you think he cursed the Negroes? He was one of them. Burnham was a black man, an evil black man, but he was black. Azzuddin Mohammed is 10 times worse than Forrest Burnham. 10 times worse. So if at Burnham time, I'm talking to the Negroes now, I'm talking to the Negroes. If in Burnham's time, you had to eat rice flour, in Azzuddin's time, you wouldn't as much as get the rice to make the flour. You will have to go back to the days hoping that God sends manna, as in mushroom, in your yard so you can pick it to get a meal. I'm talking figuratively. I'm talking literally, because the devastation that Azzuddin Mohammed's election will cause to Guyana, it will directly impact Afro-Guyanese, because he represents the opposition, right? And who is the opposition? The PNC. So the supporters of the PNC are the ones who voted for Azzuddin Mohammed and the Win Party. Therefore, he represents black people. In case you didn't figure it out by now, he represents black people. Not Indian, blacks. Unfortunately, what he signifies, when you hear the name Azzuddin, you know exactly what it means. So whether somebody call you a nigger or call you Azzuddin, same thing. Because Azzuddin represents corruption, lies, scandal, illegal activities, drugs, illegal guns, murder, molestation from women, because all of this is accusations he faced. All of it are accusations he faced. So when you hear the name Azzuddin, everything, it is synonymous with everything that is illegal. Just like when you hear the name nigger, it's synonymous with everything that is bad and distasteful to society. So you guys have a lot in common. Azzuddin and the nigger, a lot in common. Yes. That is your new status. And I'll continue to say this so you understand. It is not just, oh, he's just opposition. No, it's not that. Let me tell you something. Let me educate you on something. The National Assembly of Guyana represents Guyana, not an organization, not a religion. It represents the flag, the Constitution, and the people of Guyana, the National Assembly. So no one in the National Assembly is treated just an individual. In Guyana, you can target individual parliamentarians, this one, that one, but when it comes to foreigners, the international community, they don't separate individuals from the country. So when someone is in government, as in many countries, and that person is holding either a cabinet minister's position or an opposition leader position or the president, and that person is wanted is a fugitive or indicted and most seriously sanctioned, that is not separate to the country or the government. That person being sanctioned means the country is sanctioned. The country. So if you have an opposition leader that is a wanted fugitive, a runaway, is being sought by the international justice system, warrant is issued, extradition is in process, and he is holding the seat of the opposition leader, the entire parliament falls under his crimes, under his sanctions. The entire parliament. And remember, I said, you idiots, the parliament represents the country, the people of the country. So if the parliament falls under the sanction, it means the people falls under the sanction, which means the country falls under the sanction, which means every organization, especially the financial system of the country, will be directly impacted. And if the financial situation is impacted, who do you think pays for that? The sanctioned man? No, he doesn't. If the banking system starts to get nervous, it means all the beautiful policies of our great president, Irfaan Ali, when he announced the government is busy putting a bank together to facilitate Guyanese with loans for them to get involved in business to empower Guyanese, it means that bank will be affected because the government will have to finance the bank either by foreign loans or from the national treasury. And if the risk factor increases, the government has to think again. And the risk factors will increase based on the pulling out of businesses from the country, the lack of interest in investment in the country, the devaluation of the Guyanese currency, the oil sector might be under scrutiny, investors might be rethinking and re-examining their contracts with the country, and all of that creates an unsafe environment for the financial market. And the financial market is what determines the direction the country goes economically. Because, like I said, the international community would not separate the opposition leader, as in the person Ashruddin Muhammad, from the country. He represents the country. So because of him, as opposition leader, the international community shall put all their programs and plans as it relates to Guyana on hold. And while that is happening, the country has to go on. The country has to run. How will it run? You think taxpayers can run the country economically? You think the limited taxpayers in Guyana can create the economic boom that you're seeing right now? If that were the case, why couldn't we have seen it years ago in the Jagdeo time and the other governments? Because it's not just taxpayers. It's not just taxpayers. Investment is what creates economic boom. Trust in the economy, trust in the political system is what brings investment. An investment that comes in, they add to the tax threshold. They're the one who add to the tax threshold. If you have a shrinking private sector, if you have zero investment, meaning your foreign currency starts to decrease, but you still have to pay your loans back, money begins to slowly be removed from Guyana. People are pulling out their investment. They're looking at places where the market is much more friendly, where they don't have corruption at the top. All of these factors needs to be taken into consideration. You've never had this before, so you take it for granted. But think of the time when you had Barnum as president, and he wasn't sanctioned. He wasn't indicted. He was just a demon. And he created hell for the international community. So nobody wanted to do business with Guyana because of Barnum. Consider a leader who is wanted by the FBI, who is sanctioned, who should have been in jail in Guyana. And I digress here. Ajuddin Mohammed has the audacity through his people and himself to bring up this what's this guy name? Gupta, I think, about his ties to Italy and indicted and these kinds of stuff. The difference with these two men, as been explained by the Attorney General, the crimes are not the same. Plus, these were all suspicions of crime, of criminal activity, and it was resolved because Gupta cooperated with the Italian law enforcement. So if it was that serious and they wanted him in person, don't you think they would have pushed that case to get him physically to Italy and let him cooperate there? No, they were pursuing him because he had information they needed. And since he was not a snitch, but he had to choose between being a snitch and taking the blame on his head. So apparently he just snitched and said, hey, then they realized, okay, you're not the guy we wanted. And for Ajuddin to use that situation there, he further put himself in a more terrible situation, as in the Win people. Because the Guyanese government, under President Irfaan Ali, under Ali Nandala, the justice system, in the case of Gupta, folks, Gupta's crime or his alleged crimes in Italy, he committed no crime in Guyana. Understand this. Gupta had committed zero crime against the Guyanese people, the Guyanese government. He was just there to do business. And because they knew his location, they applied to Guyana to extradite him to Italy. But he had no offense in Guyana. The man was free to do whatever in Guyana because he was not a criminal. He wasn't wanted by the Guyanese police. Yet, when he was arrested, he was denied bail and was imprisoned for 2 months, after which he was granted bail for 2 million Guyana dollars. And you talk about corruption. He wasn't in the political arena. Nobody knew of him. He wasn't somebody that was on the radar for the Guyanese police. If he was hiding, if Gupta came to Guyana to hide, why would he get involved in business? Why would he get involved in public life in terms of business with his identity if he was hiding from the Italian police or whatever? Why? He wasn't hiding. He was living as a citizen, conducting his businesses, and dealing with his issues the best way he can through his lawyers. Yet, when the request came to get Gupta, they treated him like a criminal, imprisoned him, and put him on $2 million bail. And all of it while the man spent 2 months in prison, in actual prison, pending his extradition hearing, during which time everything was being dealt with, and the magistrate concluded there isn't enough evidence to extradite this man. And yes, the same conclusion was arrived at in Italy. They had to drop the case for lack of evidence. Tell me how that is similar to Mohammed's case. 11 counts of indictment, Azzuddin Mohammed and his father. A whirlwind of evidence by a grand jury in a Florida court. They have all the evidence. This is America we're talking about here. They have been tracking these people for years. They seized 3.9 million in gold, whatever time. Was it 2024, around that time? He has criminal activities and criminal allegations against him in Guyana. He was put on bail 3 times in Guyana for crimes against the Guyanese justice system. But yet, the Mohammed's bail for crimes worse than what Gupta was alleged to have committed. How much was the Mohammed's bail? 150 and 200,000 Ghana dollars compared to 2 million for one man and 2 people. Big time criminals, father and son, who are billionaires, were given bail for less than 200,000 each. And then you're talking, you idiot Azzuddin, you have the fucking stupidity to draw a conclusion that Gupta was helped by the PPPC, helped? Then look at you. Who helped you? President Irfaan Ali? Because if Gupta was helped and he was in jail, he was put in prison for 2 months, plus put on bail for 2 million, you calling that help? That's how the PPP help people? Is that how the PPP helps people who are accused of crime? They jail them and put such heavy bail on them? That's help? Your brain is so incapable. Why didn't you seek advice from Charan Das? Yeah, that lowlife, that politician for hire, Charan Das. Why didn't you seek advice from him before you come out and talk your shit about Gupta and the government? You should have let him advise you. He wants to advise the president, right? His advice of Ali is to tell Ali how much Ali should pay him. The only advice Charan Das wants to give to President Ali is to tell Ali how to be corrupt, and by virtue of being corrupt, give him, Charan Das, a drawback. But Charan Das should advise you, Azzuddin, because I don't see the PPP helping Gupta, and he was in such trouble, but you got off scotch-free. You mean you did it on your own? You want to say that you and the judge, you're good? Because if the PPP really wanted to get you, Azzuddin Mohammed, if they really wanted to get you, in no way, you would have been gotten bail for that amount, free to roam and create more trouble, and now on your way to being sworn in as opposition leader if the PPP was involved in your case? Dictator or not, if they really wanted to get you, you skunt, you would have been gotten. They were accusing President Barra Jagdeo of wanting to get Mark Benchcop. Mark Benchcop broke the law many times. He was accused of treason in carrying a bunch of black thugs to overrun the office of the president, to put the president's life in danger. He went to prison for that. Mark Benchcop got a lot of black people killed. If Jagdeo wanted to get Mark Benchcop, do you think Jagdeo would have granted Mark Benchcop pardon? You think Jagdeo would have pardoned Mark Benchcop to set him free from prison in a short space of time? For Benchcop to turn back and do like what most niggas do, bite the hand that freed them? You people are living in a country and you have no idea who the enemies are. You're pointing your fingers at the wrong people. The People's Progressive Party and its members are not the enemy of Guyana's democracy or Guyanese citizens. As a matter of fact, they're the ones who spoils Guyanese, the PPP. If the PPP hated black people, don't you think the laws would be stricter? Don't you think the laws will be stricter to deal with niggers? Hoyt brought the death penalty. Jagdeo got rid of it. So you tell me where the racism lies. Tell me who is for who. You're listening to this idiot, and because you yourself are idiots, you believe everything Ajudin says. He's the victim. But look at the facts. Look at the facts. They went to the house of the Speaker of the Parliament. Ajudin used and continued to use black people for his own benefit. And he used them to go to the Speaker's house. Of course, not for free. To create a stir, put the man at risk, endanger the man's life, forcing the man to call a meeting on Monday. So tell me who is who? Who is the bully? Who is the bully? Who is taking advantage of democracy? The PPP? Look at the facts. Do you see any members of the PPP resisting all that's happening to the PPP? How many PPP persons came to the rescue of Suzanne Rodriguez? How many people, Progressive Party members, came to the rescue of Suzanne Rodriguez when she was under attack by Ajudin and his cronies? How many? I'm one of them, but how many others came to her defense? The Parliament, the police force, the ERC, the Human Rights Association, Human Rights Watch, all these black, who did? How many PPP organizations came to the rescue of Mustafa when he and his son were attacked on social media by Ajudin Mohammed and his cronies? And I can continue to list the People's Progressive Party's members that continues to be victimized and attacked by Ajudin and his black cronies. Who comes to their rescue? And now the Speaker of the House, democratically elected Speaker of the House, a man of impeccable character, a man that is recognized globally that has been accredited from the international parliamentarians, uh, parliamentary speakers around the world, who came to his defense. They went to his house. They smeared him on social media. They called him all kinds of names. They labeled him. Who came to Mr. Mansour Nadir's defense? Nobody. The victim is Ashreddin Mohammed, right? He's the victim. So the billionaire loses his balls and he grows a vagina, and the fact that he is the perpetrator, he is the culprit, he is the disease to the Guyanese people, he is the one that is planning and executing all of these heinous attacks on politicians and the government, and he is the one that is playing the victim, crying foul. Oh, everything is against him. The whole system is against him. Tell me whose playbook is that again? Remind me. Whose playbook is he using? The PNC. The PNC. Yeah, you create the chaos and you play the victim so nobody will point the finger at you. Nobody will point to say he's the guilty one because you're the one crying foul. But there are still people who will do what needs to be done to let the world know that the People's Progressive Party and its members are not a part of that kind of fiasco. They are law-abiding, patriotic citizens, hardworking, they pay their taxes, they stay out of trouble, and they work together with their government to build the country. But unfortunately, we will all be affected by the election of Ashreddin Mohammed. The citizens of Guyana shall be affected. You won't get loans as you usually get. I mentioned the bank that the president wants to open to offer zero interest loans, as much as $3 million Guyana dollars to Guyanese. That may not materialize. It may not. When the banks are scared, when the banks gets nervous, who do you think suffer? Poor people. Poor people suffer when the banking system anticipates trouble. They close their doors. It's the poor that struggles. The Mohammeds are not poor. They are not rich. They are not millionaires. They are billionaires. So if the entire banking system is shut down, it wouldn't affect them. Who will it affect, Negroes? You. There will be nothing for you to steal. The country will plunge into poverty. You can't steal from the poor. You think the rich people would be around for you to steal from them? They're going to leave the country, close their doors. They might even go to Suriname, places where it's friendly, where it's clean, no corruption, no indictment, no sanctioned parliamentarians. Only because you took a lot for granted. Because of Maduro, the entire Venezuela suffered. It wasn't Maduro that was sanctioned. The entire country came under the sanction because of him, one man and his wife. You think it's because, oh, well, he was sanctioned, so why affect? No, he's the president. He was the president. He was the head of the government. They had to negotiate with him. And him being sanctioned blocked all organization, all financial institutions from doing business with Venezuela because the man who leads the country was the one who was wanted, just like with Azradi. He is leading the opposition of a country. And any policy, any initiative from the international community that requires both sides will not bear fruit. Because the same diplomats, and speaking of which, I think I'm calling on the Canadian Mountain Police, the Canadian Mountain Police, to investigate the Canadian High Commission to Guyana. What's his name? Sebastian? Whatever his name is. I'm calling on them to investigate his ties to the Mohammeds and his dealings with the Mohammeds. Investigate it. Because there's no way a diplomat will make the statements that Canadian commissioner is making unless there is something on his head, he's being blackmailed, or he's directly connected and involved with the Mohammed's camp financially. So I would like that man to be investigated. He's doubling down on the claims that he's making as if he fears no one. Why would you put your career at risk to side with a sanctioned individual, knowing that they're warned anybody who has ties or business with the Mohammeds will come under the sanction, and there are persons who fell under the sanction and had their banking revoked? And you as an ambassador, you're going to be publicly endorsing and doubling down on your endorsement for the Mohammeds? Then something is cooked. Investigate him. I'm calling on the international police or Interpol or whatever it is to investigate the Canadian ambassador to Guyana. Now, those same ambassadors, like I said before, who came out and talked about speedily endorse this man or swear this man in, after he is sworn in, their rules comes in effect, meaning they can't do business with the Guyanese government with that opposition leader. So the question would be asked, aren't you the ones that pressure the government to swear this man in? And now you're saying you can't do business with the government because of this man? Yes. That's how they conspire to destroy Guyana's growth, Guyana's economy, and Guyana's sovereignty. They set you up to fail because they very well know, as they have said prior to the elections, that having a sanctioned individual who is indicted and wanted by the US as your opposition leader in the parliament put your entire financial system at risk. They said it. That hasn't changed. It's the same. So after Monday, everything comes into effect automatically. When he signs that contract, or whatever it is, and he is sworn in and acknowledged as the constitutionally elected opposition leader, after that is done, it is like an algorithm. The switch, it's automatically pressed. And that dossier is sent to all the consulates and embassies Guyana has in every country Guyana has, all the banking systems, all the parliaments around the world, everyone is going to get that information. And everyone is going to know the opposition leader of Guyana is a criminal sanctioned waiting extradition. So they would take that information and put it in their red cabinet and say, warning. Pursue under advisement. That's what it will say. Guyana will not be seen anymore in the light it's being seen now. Trust will diminish. Confidence will diminish. All of that is going to go after Monday. All of it. And I want to reiterate, I want you to understand this, folks. The rest of the country will suffer as a result of this. If we had the patriotic stand to go out and protest the parliament from this man being sworn in as opposition leader, what would we be told? That no, a certain section of the country voted for him? No, they didn't. He just happened to get the more seats in the opposition section. But they didn't vote for him. They voted for the PNC. They didn't understand the consequences and the risks they're taking. They were poorly advised. They were tricked. Their votes were purchased. All of that should be an issue. He bought votes. He purchased votes. He broke the rules. And now he's going to break the country. He's going to destroy the country. How is that something to celebrate? I would have done my part. The universe knows that. The same Wayne Camp, the same Azridin Muhammad, who a few days ago made a special broadcast asking for justice for the man who bears an Indian name to get justice after being stabbed to death from parting a fight. They called for justice for that man. And who was the fight amongst? Black people? Okay. I want you to dwell on that for a moment. Now you have a teacher in a black neighborhood that was ganged up on by female students, 2 black females who were fighting, and more often than not, they were either in their period, fighting over some lunatic boy in the school, 2 dunderhead black female girls who might be fucking horny in their periods, fighting each other over a man in the classroom. And the teacher would do what most teachers will do: intervene, part them, and then try to figure out, hey, what are you fighting for? What's this about? But while the others were busy filming to get content for their social media and their TikTok, and while they're filming, hoping that the girls' skirts will be lift up, or they're going to tear off each other's top and their boobs come out, and then you will see which one of them has on an underwear with holes. And yeah, that's why they film. They want to see porn. The teacher intervened too early. They didn't get to see anything dramatic. What did they do instead? They turned on the teacher. They turned on the teacher. Where is the call for justice for that teacher? Ajruddin, what, is the teacher black? You don't call for justice when it comes to black people getting justice. You don't, Ajruddin. Your father is right. You and your father are racist. You use black people when it suits you. But you call for justice from this man who was stabbed to death. I don't see the identity of the man, but from the name, it sounds like an Indian man. You want justice for him. And you're trying to pin Irfaan Ali to the fact that the police might be slow in their investigation to serve justice for the Indian man. You're hoping to steal Indian interest now to say, hey, you see, I'm looking out for our kind. While at the same time, you're making the black people see your double standards. Because you have a teacher abused by black students and you haven't reached out or called for justice for her because you don't want to offend the Negroes. You're a hypocrite. And that's the opposition you want to oppose the government. You allow the Negroes to kill each other. But if harm comes to an Indo-Guyanese, you see an opportunity to steal some Indian votes, so you come out and you pretend that you care about Indo-Guyanese. Yeah, I would. These are points I notice. Them other idiots that follow you, they can't notice that. They're too stupid to notice that. I'm the genius. I have an analytical brain. I can see these things and I point them out. So the smart citizens can see, oh, that's the game he's playing. Yes, that is the game he is playing. When it's to face the bullet, call the Negroes. But that teacher, who's only doing what teachers do, educate and keep people's children safe. And these two horny, low life, that their parents are struggling to send them to school to get an education so they can get a job and not babies. They're fighting in class, the same shit they do all the time. And it's always around their periods. Picking on each other over some boy. And look what they did to the teacher. It's not the first time, not the second time. They keep doing it. That's not normal. It's normal in the black ghettos, in black schools. You need a system of the typical girls' school, military style, for these Negro children. Military style, males and females. That's how you need to educate black children. They don't understand freedom. You have to educate them under slavery. Strict systems. Black people don't understand democracy. Not the children, not the adults. You have to treat them accordingly. And I'll say this, and I'll maintain that. Slavery was the best thing ever happened to Africans. Slavery. You lose the Africans when you abolish slavery. Because from the time slavery was abolished to now, what did the black man achieve? Nothing. He has achieved nothing. But while he was enslaved, he made an effort. He wanted to be like Massa. He was impressive, worked hard, did his job. You gave him freedom, and look what society has become. Criminalized. We stand with law and order. We are calling for the immediate suspension of the parliament I am protesting the swearing in of Azzuddin Mohammed. I'm asking the Speaker of the House to rethink his position. I'm asking President Ali to use your executive powers to suspend the parliament because Guyana's future depends on that. The country is going to fall into chaos. So I'm asking you, President Ali, to use your executive powers to suspend this act on Monday. I'm asking you to do that. The country depends on that. The speakers, the opposition leaders' position should be suspended until this issue with the case is over and they know what the status is. You just have a few weeks left for February 5th. Any date that is being held to recognize this opposition thing, it should be after February 5th, not before. Azzuddin and his people have a reason why they're pushing and they're hurrying for this thing to be called before February 5th. But the Constitution does not say that the opposition leader cannot be demitted from, expelled from office to enter an extradition arrangement. It didn't say that protects him from that. But if his lawyers are telling him, as long as you're sworn in, you don't have to worry, then maybe Mr. Nandalal need to educate Guyanese to let them understand. Apart from the fact that the country is going to be fucked up, that Azzuddin Mohammed as opposition leader does not save him from extradition. Because the parliament will have to vote on his extradition after the judge signs off on the case. In the meantime, I am asking the government, the president, and the Speaker of the House of Parliament, do not go ahead with this meeting on Monday. Thank you for your attention. Until next time, goodbye.